We're in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and this is Bro Teach Me Crypto, episode 7. Okay, Pete, so in the first couple episodes, we talked a lot about decentralization as one of the core pillars of crypto. In this episode, episode 7, I'm going to explain to you how decentralization can be applied to governance and how companies today use decentralization in their decision making. The first thing to know about is something called a DAO.
All right, what's a DAO?
It's DAO, it's like another acronym.
Yeah.
And it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Okay.
And this DAO is basically a entity which enables governance on the blockchain. A DAO, instead of one person calling the shots, it puts decision-making power in the hands of the token holders. So the people
Right,
hold
right.
in a DAO.
A democracy for the token holder.
Yeah. A typical DAO has 3 things. It's got its own token, known as the governance token. It's got like a community of holders, so token holders. And the last thing it has, the ability to put forward, discuss, modify, and vote on proposals that are put forward by token holders in the community.
Got it.
In layman's terms, a DAO is a place for stakeholders to put forward and vote on decisions from anywhere around the world, pretty much instantly. Let's talk about what the typical DAO process might look like. You or I might have a bright idea, and we say, right, come up with this idea, write a bit about it, and put it on a forum.
Mm-hmm.
So you put forward an idea, then the community can discuss that idea. It's not going to be perfect on the first go, so people might put forward slight changes to that idea. So you modify the idea, and then when it's finalized, you can put it forward to the community to vote on.
It's kind of like the House of Commons, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So you put forward the idea, people vote on it, the proposal passes, and then finally that proposal is implemented. And that's pretty much it.
Wouldn't that just be way too expensive for the actual company making changes?
How do you mean?
They're like we want a policy where like the network runs 10 times as fast.
Yeah.
Everyone votes, oh yeah, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just do everything they want, surely.
Most DAOs have a treasury. So like, let's say it's like a swap protocol like Jupiter. When they earn the fees, some of those fees could go to the treasury.
Got it.
And usually that's like, it's publicly available information because it's on blockchain.
Yep.
And so someone might put forward that idea, but then the community will discuss like it's not an option because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's not like you can vote on something that's infeasible.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So an example proposal could be, let's say you're a swap protocol. You allow people to swap between tokens. That's what you built. One proposal could be, let's raise the fees that we charge by 10%.
Yeah.
Could be something as simple as that. Now we're going to talk about governance tokens. And like I said in the beginning, it's pretty crucial for a DAO to have a token because the token is what they vote in. So if you don't have the token to vote with, no DAO.
Yep.
All right. So governance tokens. Imagine you're a shareholder in a company like Apple. The shares let you vote on decisions in the company and you also earn dividends. The company makes good profit. Governance tokens are a bit like shares in the fact that you can vote with them, but they're not like shares because they don't equal equity, meaning that you don't own a part of the company. That's because these DAOs and the protocols that they're associated with, they're just code. They're just smart contracts, which we talked about in episode 4. Token holders, they don't own that at all. All they have is voting power. In a DAO, with these governance tokens, you can vote on proposals like raising the fees of your service or building a new product for your product range. But in most DAOs, it doesn't equal that you own the product itself. You just have influence, like you said, on how it operates.
Yep.
So governance tokens in the crypto world, they're a bit like shares, but they're for decentralized companies and apps, not traditional companies.
Mm-hmm.
And these decentralized apps are commonly called protocols. An example being the Jupiter, which we've looked at multiple times now. Yeah?
Yep.
If these governance tokens don't have any equity, they don't own the product, then you might wonder why they can hold such large valuations in the crypto market. So Jupe is one that you've bought already, and that's a governance token for Jupiter's DAO. Do you want to have a guess at what you think that might be worth? The total market cap of Dupe?
About 500 mil.
Yeah, that's a good guess. It's actually 2 billion.
Yeah.
Which is pretty it's huge, really.
Yeah.
Right. You've got these tokens, but they don't own the product. How could they hold such a large valuation? Well, the more established DAOs, they understood that you've got to have a connect between the protocol's performance and success and the token's price and its holders. And so what Jupiter have done is they've said, right, a portion of the revenue that we make from our services, we're going to use to buy back tokens that are circulating on the open market, buy them back and then lock them.
Yep.
And in that way, you reduce the circulating supply and that should push the price up.
Right.
That's kind of one of the mechanisms that a DAO could use to bridge the gap between the protocol performance and the token's price. Yeah.
Right.
It's important that you do that because if not, it's like, okay, I can vote on this stuff, but if it's a successful proposal and it benefits the protocol, surely the people that put the proposal there in the first place must benefit. And so it's vital that you have that connect.
Right.
We've done governance tokens and DAOs. We're going back to school. Case study time. We're going to look at Jupiter's DAO. We've come across Jupiter quite a few times in the series so far. We've used their swap feature where you swapped Sol for USDC and vice versa. Jupiter has its own DAO and that was created in January of last year. Well, it's been going a year and a bit.
So that's when the Jupe token started.
Yeah, exactly. So they launch a token and then that's how the DAO can actually begin to form. So it's been going just over a year and a bit. And in that time, they've had 22 proposals put forward and voted on. Off the top of my head, 20 of them have passed. I've got some figures that I prepared to sort of convey the scale of this operation.
Yep.
So there's been 22 votes so far, like I said. And during that time, at least 450,000 wallets have voted. So if you were to think that each wallet is one person, which it's not going to be exactly, but it's close enough, that's quite a lot of people that are getting involved in this DAO business.
Yeah.
Approximately a quarter of Dupe's circulating supply is locked up for voting.
Okay.
And in terms of like a dollar value, that's about $280 million.
Fair bit.
Yeah. Fair bit of dosh. And over those 22 proposals, 8 billion votes have been cast.
Yeah, so it's like if the voting rights are purely based on how much Dupe you have, theoretically someone could buy up 51% of the Dupe and just completely like commandeer Dupe into their like money making scheme pretty much.
Yeah, it definitely could happen.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. It's the beauty and the downfall. Anything can be put forward and passed, but that could be bad stuff like that.
I think eventually Dupe will be like, not in accordance with left wing and right wing politics, just like after a couple of years, there'll be like left wing Dupe holders and right wing. And it'll always be like nearly 50-50, I know.
It's quite an interesting idea.
But I think there'll be Dupe like parties.
It's a really interesting idea. I haven't even thought of that before. I think because the DAO is closer to a firm, it's less political and more financial. You can definitely get like groups of people that push for the different things. Probably the most obvious divide that I could say is people that like short-term and long-term outlook. So yeah, there's definitely divides in the DAO.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point. Now I want to move on to the benefits of a DAO. So like, why is this better than what exists traditionally? 4 reasons why DAO voting is better than share voting. The first benefit, and this is almost in large part because it's on blockchain, is that the whole process is completely transparent. For example, with Jupiter, you can track how much money the protocol's making. It's public. You can track how much is being paid back to shareholders. You can track in real time what the vote's looking like, who's voting for and against. Because it's on blockchain, there's no sort of, was it this, was it that? There's no real errors. It's absolute and transparent. The second benefit is probably because it's all online and it uses blockchain, which is like settling around the world pretty quickly. The cost of putting a vote together is pretty low. So you can hold votes on less like significant things. So that means that you or I could get more involved with the day-to-day running of it. Benefit number 3 is that because the blockchain's global and the internet's global, people can vote from anywhere around the world, no matter your jurisdiction. Everyone can get involved no matter where you live.
Yeah.
But the last benefit is that because it's permissionless, like you don't have to ask anyone to vote, As long as you have dupe in your wallet, you can vote as you please. Okay, so the last bit is, what are the drawbacks of the DAO and why is this needed in crypto? For most protocols, right, and this is more of an ideological thing, the ultimate goal is complete decentralization, where like the DAO will run pretty much everything, and the group of founders, like the people that set up the protocol and the company, won't like play a major role in it. It'll be the token holders, the community that have a vested interest in the success of this company. But without DAOs and decentralized governance, these protocols being operated by a small team, they may just start to put their own interests above like the token holders and the DAO. They also might resist community-driven ideas. So if one of us had a good idea, they might just not give a toss about it. DAOs are important because they bring the community and the users on side with like the vision and the long-term goal and the company's success. If you're using like, let's say, I don't know, what app do you use quite a lot?
Maybe like Instagram, YouTube.
All right, so let's say YouTube or Instagram was a DAO, and you could put forward ideas for Instagram and then benefit from when Instagram and YouTube does well.
Yeah.
You'd be way more engaged and active with that app and its community because you have a vested interest in it.
Yeah, definitely. But do you not think like, as someone who doesn't know like that much about crypto, if a vote came up, but do you not think there's kind of room for error when people are voting who just don't really know that much about it? If I didn't know anything about like the Instagram algorithm, and a vote came up saying, do you want to put ads every 30 seconds, and this will increase Instagram's revenue by 300%, I might think great, but I wouldn't realise that doing that might like cut Instagram usership in half.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a very common scenario when it's proposals put forward and people don't really read it all and they just vote just cause.
Yeah.
There's been things put in place, for example, in some DAOs where in order to vote, you have to spend, I don't know, 5 minutes reading the proposal, something like that. Of course, there's always going to be people that just don't even read it and don't understand it, but it's up to the people, the community putting forward the proposal to make it as clear for everyone to understand. So, despite all the benefits we've talked about and the case study Jupiter, quite a lot of the DAOs today and the protocols are still owned and ran by the people that set up, like the founding team. It's almost like, in a lot of cases, DAOs are kind of just like a gimmick. The theory's great and the benefits are great, but it's not being truly put into practice. I think it'll come with time, but right now, that's kind of the outlook.
Even if like an idea was kind of popular, if they thought it just wasn't good for them, then they wouldn't have to.
Yeah, it's quite possible, yeah. Although there are a few success stories, and I think Jupiter's kind of one of them, trivial proposals are put forward that maybe they're kind of meaningless. And so far, it's unclear whether a DAO is actually a beneficial governance structure for crypto protocols.
Yeah, I'd say, in general, I like the idea of it. Like, the more you have invested in something, the more it's where you have what's going to happen to it.
Yeah.
But like personally, right now, especially the way you talk about it, Duke's one of the most like well-moral crypto companies around.
Yeah.
Like, you think they have quite a good vision. If it were going to happen today, do you honestly think if they turned to 100% DAO and every single little thing was put up to a vote, the company would be in a better place in 6 months than if it was still run by the same team?
No. I think it's still in such an early stage, like a bit of centralization is needed. So far, the people that set up Dupe have demonstrated to me that they're very capable.
Yeah.
And so for now, I still trust in their sort of command over it. But in the long term, I would absolutely like to see them have less power.
Well, you probably think anyway, and people in crypto, deeper than you, thinking like the next decade, like crypto's just going to be used everywhere, everyone's going to be using it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, even though everyone uses normal money today in banking, it's not like most people actually have a clue how it actually works. So it's not like, oh, the longer Dupe goes on and the longer crypto's open, more and more people are going to understand how it works, and therefore votes are going to get better informed over time. If anything, voting will get worse informed over time. So there'll be a large percentage of the people getting involved who don't know anything about it, but have to use it just because it's involved in their day-to-day life. But surely it would never be at a stage where everybody knows the best direction for the company. I like the idea of it, but you'd be better off having it in the hands of people who have a clear vision to the company.
Yeah, that is a great point. There are DAOs that I've been involved in where instead of putting things to a vote every time, what's the word? A plebiscite. You can have it like our system, parliamentary system, where you vote on people to make decisions for you. That moves even closer to like a traditional company.
Yeah.
It's still a DAO, but I think it's important, and especially to the people watching the video, for you to understand. I've used Dupe as the example for most of the video, but it's more wide-reaching than I've discussed. It's not just an exact thing. It's more of an idea or a system of governance built on blockchain.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look exactly like how we've discussed. It's quite far-reaching. I think that's one of the core takeaways from this episode for you.
Yeah.
Regardless of the challenges, DAOs are evolving, and new ideas are emerging all the time to make the DAO more effective and fairer. But they're a bold step towards a future where token holders and communities shape crypto's future.
Nice one.